Alright, if you're an artist manager, let me ask you something. How much of your week do you actually spend building careers? And I'm not talking about data entry or chasing updates or copy and pasting the same info into 5 different places. I'm talking about actual strategic work. And if you're being honest, it's probably not as much as you would like. And there is a massive difference between building a music career and just keeping the machine from falling apart. And I have been there. Even though I am a musician with my band Tora, I have worked very closely with artist managers over my career. And of course, in the early days of my band, we were fully self-managed. We were touring the world, managing releases, coordinating with labels, agents, promoters, all while trying to keep track of different email threads, spreadsheets with missing info, Google Docs locked with the wrong permissions, right? And of course, a notes app full of ideas and tasks. Now, during this process, I came to appreciate that artist management isn't just a 9 to 5. It is a constant juggle. It is working on the road. It is late nights. It is different time zones, roster updates, tour logistics, and release timelines. And all of the tools artist managers are given, well, they're not actually purpose-built for this. So I decided to actually build something that was. And I pulled in my personal experience with Tora, and I collaborated with several other artist managers to build Music Manager OS. Now this is a dedicated music management system built for the modern era. And then something amazing happened. Along came Notion AI and made the system 10x better. So now it is no longer just a Notion dashboard, it is actually a personal assistant. It has complete oversight of all of the information relating to your artist operations. It can help you automatically create, complete, and organize tasks. It has built-in web search. You can plan and execute. You can drag in a flight confirmation PDF and it will pass all of the information and log it directly into your flights database. No more manual entry. You can even paste a messy email thread. Notion AI pulls the key information and creates tasks automatically. And the list just goes on and on and on. And this changes the game. The system doesn't just organize your work, it actually does the work for you. And the managers winning right now aren't just slopping prompts into ChatGPT. They are using dedicated AI systems to multiply their output and to streamline operations. And Notion AI has fundamentally changed what is possible within a workspace like this. And Music Manager OS is built to take full advantage of it. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through the entire system and I'll show you exactly how Notion AI plugs into each of the different components to save you hours every single week. So let's get into it. Alright guys, here is Music Manager OS. Now before we start diving into each of the different core components, I just want to talk about the overall structure because I get a lot of emails of people asking me where to start, perhaps even feeling a little bit overwhelmed because there's so much stuff here. The way that I build my OS templates is they are made up of different core components. So as you can see here, we have operations, we have notes, we have artists, and each of these core components is essentially able to stand on their own as an individual template, and I do actually offer these. But to me, they become a lot more powerful when we have different relationships between them. For example, if we're in artists and we open up my demo artist page here, you can see that we've got these arrows which represent relationships to different databases and different pages within this system. And I do this not only to keep things organized, but to keep things efficient. Because when a Notion page or a database gets a lot of information, it can start to become a little bit slow. And I know that this is the bane of a lot of Notion users. So while it might seem a little bit complex and overwhelming at the beginning, I just want to let you know that you do not have to use every one of these components. For example, you might not want to use finances. You might have a system set up with QuickBooks. And I'll be the first to note that this is not a fully comprehensive financial system. It's just something that you can actually use to track specific revenue streams. Each of these different pages, you can find the databases for these pages here. On the dashboard, you come to databases and you can see that I've done my best to organize all of the different databases. So starting off on the dashboard, I've got a few different charts here which are pulling information from different places. We are getting the total artists, which I have on my roster, as well as the catalog that these different artists have in terms of songs that we are tracking and looking after, and then combined revenue as well. You can see all of this information here. Now, you do need to be on a paid Notion plan in order to use Notion AI and in order to use these charts. I just want to flag that because as most of this video is going to be talking about the power of Notion AI, you are able to use this template without Notion AI, but to me, it's just worth that extra 20 bucks a month. It's just so worth it, and I'm going to show you guys why in a second. If we move on to operations, this is your task management and productivity space. And you can see I have got this organized by different artists. Here's Glass Atlas, here's me, here's Eugen. These are just demo artists and some demo content that I've created. You can see that we have projects as well as timeline to indicate the scope of these different projects. And then we have events down here as well. So this is everything productivity, everything organization. And we can view these tasks in different ways, perhaps by project or by status or who the task is assigned to, which at the moment we have got no assignees. All right, so this is pretty straightforward stuff. And this is actually how most people or teams get started with Notion. It's basically a productivity tool. And it does this exceptionally well. Now, where things start to get interesting is when we start to actually add relationships. So if we come over to artists and you look here, and let's just click on my profile, you can see that in here, as we looked at before, we have got a lot of different related properties. So whenever I create a task, I'm actually able to link it to a specific artist. And this way I can get a full overview of all of the different artists, all of the different tasks that they have going on. And so if we want to just look at how AI starts to interface with this whole system, let's just come down here to the bottom and we're going to start in a fresh chat. And the way that I like to use AI is simply talking to it as I would talk to a person. I'm almost not even typing that much anymore. So I take an approach like this. Let's add a new task for Thorn Davis to get ready for tour by making a list of all of the different music equipment that he is going to need to bring. And we fire that off. And what you can see is we have a Opus 4.5, which in my opinion is the best model pre-selected. And it's looking now, he found Thorn Davis, artist in my workspace. Great, let me create a task now. And what's important to note is you can see here that we have got this operations page pre-linked. And this is because we're in the operations page. And so what this actually does is it helps Notion AI to find exactly what we're trying to give reference to or what the context of the request actually may be. You can see it added this task in for me, which is great, but we don't have a due date or priority. So let's just add that too. All right, this is great. Can you please add a due date for the middle of Feb and make this a high priority as well? Bam, and we fire that off. And what you can begin to see is we can start to do this stuff in bulk. If we were to have a list of a few things that we need to do or an email that comes in from someone and we need to organize that email and into different tasks, you can take a screenshot of the email, you can copy the text and just simply put it in here. Now let's crank this up a little bit. Thorn Davis also has an upcoming music release, and I'm wondering if we can make a list of all of the different tasks that he is going to need to perform as we get ready for release. Can you just give me a list of these tasks before adding anything, and then we can review which ones we actually want to add in. This is now similar to how you've worked with different chatbots where you're able to talk and get information from it. But where this really changes is you can actually now more dynamically interact with this information. You can take what it's basically giving you here and you can start to add this in. This is a lot of different tasks here. So what we're going to do is just add these pre-release tasks. All right, let's add the pre-release tasks as we're 2 months away from this release. Give them all a priority of medium, and we can choose due dates accordingly based on what you think is appropriate. And let's set the status to inbox as well. So this becomes pretty cool because what also happens is when you are having a meeting with your artist, whether it's on Zoom or it's in person, you could technically record it, you can transcribe it, and you can put it in here, and it's going to just create all of the stuff that needs to be done as well. And this is going to save you a whole bunch of time. And you can just see how fast this is. It's just like adding all of this stuff for me. It's actually insane. And every day I smile when I use this system. I'm just honestly blown away with it. All right, so we've got all of these different tasks which have been programmatically added for us. Now let's kick this up a notch and let's actually add these to a release campaign. So you can see here that we've got projects and under Thorn Q2 release campaign. So let's ask it to do that for us. link all of these tasks we have just created with the Thorn Q2 release campaign project. And just as a note, the way that I like to do things is tasks I consider to be immediately actionable. Projects have a longer running timeline, but they do have a definitive beginning and end date. So for a release, this is something that we start preparing for and then we ultimately complete. And to just help track our progress with that release, it's good to actually link these tasks to different projects. Now you can see here, under this Q2 release campaign, we've now got this progress bar. And if we click and view this page, you'll be able to see that we have got 11 tasks linked. And if we look at this, you can see here we are going. And as we start to complete these different tasks, we will see this progress go up. So we can say that is all done, that is all done, that is all done. And look at this. I personally love it. I mean, I'm a sucker for productivity and for organizations. Yeah, that gets me every time. Now, here we can also see timeline, that we've got all of this visible here. So if you want to have a more, I don't know, visually focused or visually understandable way of seeing everything, this is also a nice way to view it. And then we have events at the bottom, which I should also mention, events can be linked with your Google Calendar. So again, everything just coming into one system here. Now, moving along, I want to show you the artists section. I like to think of this as the central repository for everything relating to that artist. I'm talking labels, publisher information, technical writer, hospitality writer, but even more than that. And if you look in here, we can see that not only do we have all of the core business information that relates to this artist, but I've actually gone ahead and I've actually added another thing here called the artist blueprint. Now, one thing that I have found with AI is that you get much better output from AI if you give it good context. What do I mean by context? I mean specific information relating to an output or a project or a task. So if I want to actually query AI to get some more information about this artist blueprint is a place where it's able to understand what the mission is, what the career phase is, current goals, midterm goals. And I've made this extremely comprehensive. And what I would encourage you to do is to go through this with each of your artists. It's also possible to just share this directly with the artist. They can actually fill it out. And they don't have to get everything, but as much as they can is usually better. And what this means is, when I now need to create content or I need to brainstorm for, say, a photo shoot, whatever it actually is, this becomes a very helpful way to actually get that information. And similarly, it also can give me much better advice about how to proceed or to deal with or to manage stuff as I'm dealing with this artist, right? Because now the AI has very clear information about everything to do with this artist. So I've gone through and just added in some demo information here, but as you can see, it's super specific. And if we want to just test that out, let's just try in here. So I'm looking at the Thorn Davis artist page and I'm wondering what would be a logical next step for him if he wants to actually expand his career into a new territory based on the artist blueprint information that is in his page. So this is obviously a pretty generic request, but as you can see, most immediate, it understands exactly what's going on. All right, so this is just based on demo information, but it says here that Thorn has an upcoming European tour support slot with glass animals. This is the perfect launchpad to capitalize on it. So there's a sync licensing push. We've got some ideas. We've got some info here. And now that we have this, we're able to then ask it to create different tasks or to help us to take next steps. We're able to have an interactive discussion with our information. Like, you guys see where this is going. It's incredible. Just a quick point on notes. This is probably the original use case for Notion, which is just a knowledge base and information storage. So obviously we have got notes here where you can create individual notes. You can link them to notebooks and you've got favorites. Pretty simple stuff. But again, I like to keep all of my information in one place rather than using my Apple Notes or Evernote or something else like that. Notion works very well on mobile. So this is what I've got that set up for. Now, touring. This is where things get spicy. Because touring, you may be doing with your artist, you may not. They may have a separate tour manager or whatever the case. The touring component is probably one of the most valuable tools that I personally think that I have made, because it actually completely replaces the need for master tour. And I built this after going on tour with my band, and we were self-managing at the time, and I just got so frustrated with all of the mess of trying to organize what was going on, what was happening the next day. And say what you will about me being the drummer, but I'm telling you, it was pretty disorganized. And so again, this is a very elegant but very powerful solution to actually deal with touring. And to get you started on just how this AI can help, I want to show you guys the flight confirmation inputting of information, because it is insane. So as you can see here, the touring system encompasses many different aspects of touring. We have the tours themselves. If you open this page, you can see the itinerary, you can see the performances on this tour, expenses, personnel, all of that kind of stuff. But of course, we also have the performances. So if you click on a performance, you're able to see notes relating to that performance. You can see the personnel that can get tagged. Again, every time you see this arrow, this is a link to a different database or a page. So if we were to add personnel for this tour, you can simply type in Sam Smart and add that person, or you can link an existing person. We've got Jordan Matthews, we've got Riley Chen, right? And so if you're dealing with the same people within your team, this is a very good way to keep things organized. You can have notes as well. And of course you could add in the menu, and of course you can add in the address and all of the other information. I won't belabor the points, it's pretty obvious. But where things get interesting here is with flights, because adding or manually adding flight information is super annoying. And when I first started this project, I actually had a very prominent tour manager reach out to me asking if it was possible to automate this process, because he was saying that he spends most of his time booking flights, taking that flight information and then putting it into itineraries for everyone on the team. And he was managing about a 20-person team. At the time I told him, look, it's possible, you can use Zapier and these other things, but it was complicated. There was no nice way to do it. Notion AI again changes that, and let me show you. Let's just create a new chat here. So I've just got a travel itinerary here, just a demo one for a flight. And if I drag it in, we can either just one-shot it within this main page and say, hey, add it in here, or we could go into the flights page here. More specifically, you can see it gets auto-selected at the bottom, and we can say, hey, add this flight in. So let's do that. Please add this flight information into the flights database. Can you just please pass all of the information and add it in? Done. I've added both flights to the flight database for Thorn Davis. Oh yeah. All right, so let's come back to touring. What I've noticed is sometimes when it actually does this, you need to refresh the page in order to see the information. But here you can see it has added it in. Denpasar to Gold Coast to Denpasar. And that is the date, and that is the date, and all the flight information looks correct. Whoa, guys. So that was just done in what, 20 seconds? So that to me is pretty amazing. All right, so let's keep on moving along. So we've gone through touring. You can see that there's a little bit more to unpack here in terms of itinerary. But again, if there's anything you need to add or change in the itinerary, use AI to do it for you. If you need to map out or route a thing, use AI to do it for you. It can just add all of this in. In fact, I should mention that as this is a demo, all of the placeholder information in here was added with this AI, with Notion AI. And it did so in about 15 minutes. Alrighty, so let's take a look here at releases. Now, you can see we have these different release types: EP, single, album, remix. Clicking on any of these will simply create a new release page. But if we click on one of these, you can see the way that these pages are constructed is we have the core information here. Each one of these pages also by default will have these different placeholders and social links and all of this stuff. You may ask why. Now, the reason I've taken this approach is because you can actually come and you can share, and you can copy this link, you can adjust the permissions, and you can share this with anyone in the team, or perhaps people not in the team, whether it's a publicist or a publisher or whatever it actually is, and they can see all of the information relating to this release. This means you don't have to constantly be sharing links and many different kinds of links, and links to the artwork and links to the SoundCloud and all of that kind of stuff. Everything's in one place. It's like the combination of a release package with a press kit, because the label or whoever you're sharing this with is also able to access social links. They can see album credits, they can see goals if you want them to. They can even see the release timeline, which relates back to the tasks and the projects which we saw in operations. Really cool. And if you come in here and you look at fonts and logos, you can actually add fonts and logos again as well. So all of that stuff is here. If we come back, we can look at a visual mood board, which again, you can add images in here relating to your release, what you're trying to go for, keywords, key phrases, all of this kind of stuff. And again, links to the actual WAVs or whatever it is. Also, of course, artist bio, EPK, press release. All of this stuff is optional, but again, I put everything in there so that you can make use of it if you want to. Now, this is probably a good opportunity to come back and show you a little bit under the hood how all of this kind of stuff works. So as you can see, we've got these different release types, and this is the same on almost every page. If you come here, you can see we've got these different artist types. You can see we have these different node types, and you can see we have these different task types. Now, what is actually going on under the hood, if we just come back to releases, is you're able to click here where it says new, and you can see these different logos are mapping to each of these different kinds of releases. And if you come and you select edit this template, what this will do is you can see you are editing a template. This will allow you to adjust the information that you see in the page whenever you hit new EP. And so if you didn't want to have the press release show up every single time, you can adjust this template so that every time you do create a new EP, it's creating it with the information that you want. Similarly, if you want to remove the EP release goals or the timeline or any of that kind of stuff, this is where you can do that. And this is a very powerful feature as it relates to Notion, because every single page within a database can have its own template, which means that you don't have to constantly remake pages every single time. If you just come back and you look at, say, artists, the same thing is true. If we click on new solo artist, edit, voila, you can see we have all of the different properties. One thing I do need to mention, this component that we're looking at here is what is called a linked database. And this is actually just an instance of a core database. So if we come back to the dashboard here and we come back to our databases, let's scroll until we find artists. This is the core database. Anytime we are adjusting the template, I want you to keep in mind that the way I design my templates is so that every single instance you see within the actual template is a linked database. What does that actually mean? So look, let's just come here and we're just going to go / linked database, and we can come here to artists. And if we're clicking on that, you can see that this now creates an instance of this, but it's styled in a different way. So if you want to adjust that, you then just simply come to layout. You can choose a different kind of layout, how you want it to look, so on and so forth. And so this is to say that if you adjust information here, it's going to adjust it in the core database. And the reason why that's important is because I just want to stress that if you do come and you edit these templates, and if we come into edit and we say adjust some of these properties, it will also adjust the properties in the other templates, because these are all pages that are coming from the same database. We're just filtering it to show different pages or not. This can be a little bit of a learning curve, but what I really encourage you to do is, when taking on a system like this, spend a little bit of time playing around, create some stuff, break some stuff. You're always able to reduplicate the template and start again, but just spend like at least a day or two just inputting information, diving around, playing around. And this is especially true if you're just new to Notion. If you're familiar with Notion, this is going to be a no-brainer for you. But I just want to touch on that. So moving on, we've got catalog, which essentially is what it sounds like. It's just a catalog of all of the different tracks which you may be monitoring. Now, I appreciate that this is a music manager OS, not a record label OS. But with that said, each of these different tracks here, important information that you may need in order to help you do your job. So I would say that any artist that you're managing, all of the tracks which they have out, as you're managing this artist, it's important to get this information, because it means you're not going to have to follow up with them. If you're just doing your job, networking, also just trying to shop around, help this artist get deals, whatever the case is, you have a master overview of everything that is going on. And we can see we've got different views here for singles, EPs, albums. This component is actually present in a few of my other OS templates, but it's been simplified and adjusted here to suit what I think artist managers need to see. And then if we move along to finances, As I mentioned before, this is a place, it's quite a simple way to just manage income and expenses. Definitely not a replacement for QuickBooks, but what it does allow you to do is, given that royalty payments, especially for publishing or perhaps from Spotify or TuneCore, they come in batches, say every 3 months or 6 months. It's actually helpful to just log that somewhere, and it again gives you a little bit of an oversight as to where you're going and how you're progressing, and also helps the AI to be able to track your progress and success as well. The other thing I've added in here is budgets. A very important thing to do when you're preparing for a tour or a release, but as you can see, it's possible to just create a general budget. Again, this is representing a template which has been pre-made, and you're able to just put in the income that you have available and the expenses and different categories to just keep everything linked up. So I find this to be very helpful because AI can look at this budget as well and give you some advice. The other thing which I've added at the bottom, which is very useful, I actually use this all the time, is to manage subscriptions. This might be relevant for you as a manager in terms of whether you're paying for Slack or you're paying for other sort of software or things like this. It's good to just get a bit of a high level overview of what all of that stuff is. But you could also help your artists track their various subscriptions as well. Moving along into marketing, this is a full content creation system. It can stand on its own as a separate template, but I've bundled it in here as well if you want to actually help your artists to create content and to schedule content and all of that. Because what's possible is if you are working with an artist in the system, they can actually be using this system to create the content, and you can then schedule it for them or post it for them, or just be a little bit more involved in what's going on and helping also give them some ideas. If we just choose one of these, like what have we got here? This is let's just choose a video. This is a template. We've got input for the footage, the thumbnail, title, caption, hook, script, links. Great. If we pull open this one and we say, actually, this is going to be an Instagram reel, you can see it's slightly different here. We can choose cover preview images, title caption, the hook, different hook ideas, scripts, links. It goes on, and it's very comprehensive. And this template in itself is worth its weight in gold. And I have a lot of people who just use this template as a standalone thing, completely irrelevant to music as well, and it completely services all of their needs. So just to say that that's all in here, again, you can be linking different content to different platforms, and you can even create campaigns to help you track your different content within that platform. Because there's so much in here, I apologize. I'm not going to go into every single thing. I don't want to have this video completely blow into a hours-long masterclass. What I encourage you to do is to just create pages, try things, link stuff together, and you can actually start to see how the whole thing works. And the last few things I want to just show you guys here is contracts, which if you come and you look at this contract I've created here, you've got contract type, attached contract if you've actually got the documents, all of the information, and all of this can just be created by you taking the contract, the PDF, putting it into your Notion AI, and it will fill out all of this information for you, which is precisely what happened here. I just had a demo contract, added it in, and it put it all in. And so what we can do is, again, another little test. Let's just say, when does the Thorn X Manager contract expire, and what are the things that I need to be aware of when the contract is actually finished? So of course, imagine you're on the go or you're trying to figure something out. You can open your Notion and you can just ask it without actually having to come in here and review that. And you can see it knows the sunset clause, it's got the audit rights, it's got the stuff. Okay, next key date is February 1st, 2026. This is just 6 days away. This may require action. And then I know, okay, what's actually going on? If you're just a manager managing one artist, you might have a lot of this stuff in your head. But if you've got a growing roster, or if you're a management agency or something like this, these tools start to really compound your ability to stay on task, on track, and well informed with what's actually going on, because you've got a superhuman brain able to review all of this information and tell you exactly what is going on. Again, it can even create key deliverables for you when you put the contract in as well. It's an amazing time to be alive, honestly. It just blows me away every day. All right, so you guys get the drift with that. You can see we have timeline here just to visually represent the length of the contract as well. And we have a deliverables calendar. So this is specific things that need to happen. So if an artist is required to deliver X amounts of releases as per a contract or anything like that, all of these deliverables will show up in here, noting again that this is a separate database, but it's linked to the contracts database. So if you just open this up, can we add a new deliverable for this contract that the artist needs to submit a 12-track album by the 1st of June 2026? So perhaps the contract has been adjusted and this needs to happen, but let's have a look. All right, done. I've created a new deliverable. Fantastic. So if you just change this to June, we can see here that we have got that new deliverable. And has this been started? We can say this is in progress, album relating to Thorn. And again, this is the artist. And you can see, you can really just navigate around this template by just clicking on these different relation properties. And we can see here, okay, these are the deliverables for Thorn. Like, the more information that you can put in here, the better the whole system is going to perform. And that used to be a burden before we actually had the Notion AI, because you would have to manually go through and do it. And I know that was the bane of some of my users. Happy to share with you all that this is no longer happening. And in fact, anyone that's been using my templates since Notion AI came out has been telling me a lot of great stuff about how this has actually improved the templates for them. All right, so one of the last things we have here is a prospect pipeline. So if there was an artist that you've been following or an artist that you'd be interested in signing at one point, and you just want to periodically be checking in with them and following their progress, this is where you could be doing that. So they're not signed yet. They're not actually in your artist roster. You're just following along with them. And if we look at this one here, you can see this is the information that's been shared. This is what's going on. This is all of her information, etc., etc. This is a bit of a breakdown of what is happening. And you can actually set periodic reminders to just check in with her, say every few months. And this actually happens with a few labels that are following my band Tora. Every few months, we're getting an email from them. Hey guys, just checking in, what's going on? And it's cool to see that these guys are interested. And it also means that it's like a soft advertising in a way. When it comes to us doing a new album or doing a new release or whatever, we might be thinking, hey, actually, maybe we should try these guys. They seem keen. Because as an artist myself, the people that I want to work with are the people that are interested in my project. So this is a good way to stay on top of that and to look at bringing artists that you want to work with into the fold. You can see here we actually just have the follow-ups calendar, as I was talking about before. And the last thing that we've got is the directory. So this is actually helpful because if you're a tour manager, you need to have information for people when you're booking flights, or if something goes wrong, or if you need to contact someone, or whatever it actually is, right? And when you're preparing for a tour, you need to collect all of that information. And what you can do is you can actually create a page here in the directory which has all of this person's information. So if we just choose a template to get started, I believe this would be crew. If we open all of this, we can see their information. So what this allows us to do is to have a place where we can repeatedly just add them to different tours as things are happening. We don't have to constantly dig up that information again and like, oh, hey, can you resend me this passport photo that you sent me like a year ago, or whatever the case is. It just makes things a lot more efficient and a lot more streamlined. And to show you that in practice, if we come back to touring, and if we just look at one of these performances, you can see that we have this personnel. You can see that we have these people. And if we click on Riley, you can see we have Riley's information. So you can imagine being a tour manager, you're at the venue, you're running around, things are going on, you need information, bam, it's all in one place, nicely organized. I know people have done this with spreadsheets and with Excel sheets and with Word documents and whatever the case, but to me this is just it's just everything in one place, you know? So this is really just a scratch on the surface of what is possible, especially as it comes to Notion AI. But as you can see, we've got a lot of these different components here. As I mentioned before, you can use them, you can not use them, you can adjust them, you can tweak them, but spend a little bit of time just playing around with this template, getting familiar with it. And over time, what's going to happen is as you're using it, there'll be things that you want to tweak and adjust and add and remove. And this is just part of the process. This entire workflow does not represent the only way to use this template. It is just a starting ground with everything that I think that you may need so that you can actually choose how you want to construct the whole system. As always, if you have any questions or if there's anything else you would like to see in these templates, please feel free to message me or email me or whatever it is, or you can drop a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one.